Sri Lanka has sunk into a pool of multi-million-pound foreign debt payments, worsening the nation's foulest economic crisis since its time of independence in 1948. Now, the economic crisis is gradually spiraling into a food crisis, leaving thousands of people hungry on the streets. What could be the reason for such an economic collapse? Let's dive deeper into this topic as we proceed with this video. Today in this video, we'll be digging deeper into the facts that led Sri Lanka to suffer a global food crisis alongside a severe economic collapse. Keep watching this video till the end to learn about Sri Lanka's worst economic scenario ever found in the history of its independence. Let's learn what leads Sri Lanka to end up in an economic crisis after all these years. How does the government plan to deal with it? What measures will it take to keep the general public safe from food crisis and inflation? Sri Lanka is in the midst of one of the greatest economic crises it has ever experienced. It has just collapsed on its foreign loans for the first time since independence, and the 22 million population of the country is facing debilitating 12-hour power outages as well as severe shortages of food, fuel, and other necessities like medications. Inflation is at all-time peak of 17.5%, with food costs skyrocketing to 500 Sri Lankan rupee or $1.39 for a kilogram of rice, which would ordinarily cost roughly 80 rupees or $0.22. Due to shortages, a 400-gram packet of milk powder is said to cost more than 250 rupees or $0.69, compared to 60 rupees or $0.17 normally. It has been reported that the economic crisis in Sri Lanka is now turning into a humanitarian agency because millions of residents are running short of basic facilities like food, cooking gas, fuel, and medicine. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent, or IFRRC, sent out a warning against it. It has also launched an appeal for the betterment of the emergency to provide 28 million Swiss francs so that they can get some relief and the government gets something to begin with their recovery efforts for about 500,000 people. The ongoing crisis multiplied soon after the West fired its sanctions bazooka at Russia as a punishment for its attack on Ukraine. The present situation is horrifying tourists as they get to see the rolling blackouts and have to experience a state of emergency. Thus, we can say that the crucial source of foreign exchange is also being disrupted in this condition. According to the reports generated in March, food inflation has reached up to 30.2%. Also, the 40% depreciation of the currency against the US dollar in about 1 month, including the devaluation managed by the central bank, is now blowing out leverage ratios. The International Monetary Fund has estimated the public debt at 120% of GDP, is somewhat 40% points more than it might be believed to be sustainable. The critics have stated that the root cause of the deadly crisis in Sri Lanka lies in poor economic management. Hence, the mismanagement by the succeeding governments sustained and developed a twin deficit, a budget deficit along with the current account deficit. An Asian Development Bank working paper revealed in 2019, Sri Lanka is a classic twin deficit economy. It further stated, twin deficits signal that a country's national expenditure exceeds its national income and that its production of tradable goods and services is inadequate. But guess what? The current crisis was catalyzed due to deep tax cuts promised by Rajapaksa during the election campaigns of 2019. The collapse of the Sri Lankan economy has blown the minds of the inhabitants. Protesters are now fed due to the crippling shortages of fuel and essential food items. They are still on the streets, pressurizing multiple members of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa's cabinet to offer their resignation. It was on April 1 when President Gotabaya Rajapaksa professed a state of emergency in Sri Lanka. However, it was withdrawn in a matter of 1 week, followed by enormous protests by fuming citizens over the government's management of the crisis. Mahesh Gunasekara, the Sri Lankan Red Cross Secretary General, said that the situation is taking a dangerous shift for the people as they were already struggling for the minimum, like getting some food on the table during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's even worse for households with single parents, those who are already at a loss of income without any adequate jobs. He said that Sri Lanka now needs international support to help thousands of people to get their lives on track again. Although it is going to be difficult for the people to recover and pull their lives back together, it is what needs to be done. Sri Lanka has been going through problems for years now due to mismanagement. Thus, its speed untying is a threat to stronger economies from Europe to Asia. suddenly dealing with a hike in the cost of living. Civil unrest has also been sparked due to the ever-provoking conditions that have been bubbling throughout the COVID-19 phase. An immediate drop in the production of agriculture has resulted in a swift price hike for essential food items like vegetables and rice, etc., that have a direct impact on food security and the household economy. The nation depends on imports for a number of necessities, including gasoline, food, and medications. However, a lack of foreign exchange in Sri Lanka is being held responsible for the exorbitant prices. Most nations will maintain foreign currencies on hand to trade for these goods. Almost 5 million individuals, or 22% of the population, presently need food aid. Recent polls show that 86% of households adopt at least one coping strategy, like limiting food consumption or skipping meals. Nearly 200 important medications are currently out of supply, and another 163 are expected to become critically short during the next 2 to 3 months. Additionally, there are more than 250 common laboratory goods and over 2,700 important surgical items that are out of supply. Many hospitals have been forced to delay routine and non-urgent surgeries and treatments due to power outages and a lack of fuel to run generators. According to Sri Lankan's Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, the government is currently in such financial straits that it will have to manufacture money to pay salaries. He issues a warning that this will result in further price increases and an increase in inflation reaching 40%. He also suggests that Sri Lankan Airlines, a state-owned carrier, may be privatized. Wickremesinghe also emphasized the importance of repairing ties with Asia's three great powers, India, China, and Japan, with whom he has had strained relations owing to poor political decisions. The Prime Minister reportedly stated that he spoke with representatives from the United Nations, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Food Programme, the United Nations Development Programme, and the World Health Organization. He informed Parliament that many members of these international organizations and other countries have decided to support the country at this tough moment. The government of Sri Lanka has accumulated $51 billion or 39 billion pounds in foreign debt. Now, for repaying the foreign debt, Sri Lanka will have to pay $7 billion or 5.4 billion pounds this year, and corresponding sums in upcoming years to settle these debts. The government is asking the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, for $3 billion in emergency bridging loans so that it can make payments. As a requirement for any loans, the IMF has stated that the government must increase taxes and interest rates. Sri Lanka has secured a $600 million loan from the World Bank. India has pledged $1.9 billion for imports and may provide a further $1.5 billion. Additionally, it has delivered 400,000 tons of fuel and 65,000 tons of fertilizer, with additional fuel supplies anticipated later in May. The G7 nations, which include Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US, have pledged to assist Sri Lanka in obtaining debt relief. Sri Lanka owes China $6.5 billion, and the two countries are negotiating a debt restructuring plan. It's high time for the Sri Lankan government to take some serious measures now. A default can substantially harm a country's investor trust, making it difficult for it to borrow money on international markets and jeopardizing the currency's value. Once the situation stabilizes, Sri Lankan inhabitants would have to literally pull themselves up to do something again, because inflation might leave a serious impact on their health or mind. So that's all for today, folks. I hope this video was helpful and it gave you enough insight into what's currently going on in Sri Lanka. Let's hope that the situation gets better so the inhabitants can finally take a sigh of relief. If you want to watch more such videos, subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to receive updates about our upcoming videos. And we'll see you in our next video.